Hi there, my name is Denise Eckert, and I'm from the Relaxation Lounge. And I love coming on here and sharing different techniques and tips to help you lower the stress in your life. And I love having amazing guests. And today I've got Dagmar Bryant, and she's a UK based Australian motivational speaker and business coach. And her motto is life is not about sitting on the sidelines. To achieve success, you need to take calculated risks. So, welcome, Dagmar.
Thank you, Denise, for having me on the Relaxation Lounge.
So now, how did you come down this road of helping people, get into their groove, basically?
Well, once upon a time, I was in corporate, specifically in law, and I have this value, this little value called justice, which means that I really want things to be fair. I want things to come out right. And I discovered along the way that law was actually not going to help me to be able to achieve that. And yet it was still really important for me to be able to make a difference to people. And I have my own journey of empowerment. And I really wanted to share that with specifically women. So my goal is really to empower women to be the best that they can be, to live that life that they want to live without limitations, to be able to do the things they love without thinking, oh, but I have to do this or I should do that, or all those words, that dialogue, those stories that we tell ourselves. And I want them to be able to feel like you can do it.
Absolutely. Now, in your experience, what are some of the key stressors that you find with your clients?
Money is definitely a key stressor. Uncertainty is a key stressor. Workplace stress. So if they've got competing priorities between family and kids and just getting everything done, it just seems that for a lot of my clients, there's not enough hours in the day. And also that trying to find somehow that balance, that work-life balance to actually be able to have a minute to breathe and do some things for themselves.
Now, what are some of the steps you can take to create that balance in your life?
Well, I believe that every now and then we need to just stop, actually just stop. It doesn't even have to be for long, but for example, stop saying yes to everything. There's this wonderful little word called no. Yet how often do we as women go, oh yeah, not a problem. I'll drive you to football practice. I'll drive you here. I'll drive you there. I'll do this for you. I'll do that for you. Hold on a sec, but I had something planned for that time. What about me? And I think every now and then that's got to be the first thing. Every now and then we've got to schedule time in our calendar for ourselves, for our own well-being. And I think that has to be tip number one in terms of, being able to just take a little bit of time, call it a meeting with me, so that you have time to go for a walk, time to do yoga, time to meditate, time to listen to music, to a podcast. What is it that is that thing that you want to have time for?
And now, why do you think, us as women, we forget to stop and take and look after ourselves?
Well, I would say that's because we're natural nurturers. Think about going back to the caveman, to cave times. Man went out and caught the boar, and women were in the cave looking after the children and the community. So we are natural carers. We want to do things around our home, around our family. So naturally, we're always saying yes to all of those things.
And I find too that when you are experiencing stress or burnout, you don't have the energy to say no or to argue with someone or to just that feeling that, oh, they're not going to like me saying no. So you just add more to your plate and it becomes a very vicious circle.
It does, but there's something called what I call healthy boundaries. And at some point, you have to put a boundary in place. Imagine it this way, and this doesn't even have to be connected to your family, but the example that I was going to give was, imagine you've got that girlfriend who every other night is ringing you because she's got boyfriend problems again. And what ends up happening is that there's this vicious cycle of they feel absolutely brilliant because, hey, you've given them your time, your energy, and just made them feel better. You come away going, I feel absolutely beat. So I just think we have to have those boundaries in place. And if someone else doesn't like it, well, that's not up to us. We're not being nasty to someone. We are just saying, hold on a moment, I need time for me. It's all very well to give kindness out to everybody else, but we have to be our own best friend. We have to give that kindness back to ourselves. There is a reason why they say on an airplane, give yourself the oxygen first before you help others. If you don't take time to give yourself that kindness, that healing, that time, then how can you be effective in doing all the other things that you need to do? It's going to have an effect not just on your physical well-being, it's going to have an effect on your mental well-being, on your stress levels, on everything. That there is that snowball effect if we don't take care of ourselves.
And the biggest thing is our health. Like, I know when I started this podcast, I interviewed a lot of burnout survivors, and some of the issues that they developed through putting themselves in extreme stress were incredible. Like, they were very rare diagnoses and severe diagnoses, like it was organ failure and all sorts of incredible things that I've never even heard of before. But it was basically their body shutting down to let them know that this is it. Like, you cannot do this anymore. And I find that people don't realize if you keep pushing that envelope, that's going to be the end result, and you're not going to be able to help anybody.
Exactly. And the thing is, our body is very smart. It gives us signs, and it might start off with a headache or a migraine, something fairly, well, I'm not saying migraines aren't serious, because I do know migraines can be quite serious, but it's not as bad as organ failure. But you get these little signs along the way, and then people might say, oh, it's just a little headache, I'll just take an aspirin or a paracetamol, push it away. But they forget that there's a reason why that's coming on. Now, everybody gets headaches every now and then, but if it's affecting your well-being, if it's affecting your sleep, if it's affecting the way you cope in life, I mean, you might start to find yourself getting really anxious and really stressed, and then all of a sudden your coping mechanisms fall down. You might find that you get angrier and frustrated, and then you lash out at other people. So again, there's various symptoms that you can see. You might take more medicine, where even if it's prescribed medicine because of conditions that you're developing, you might end up drinking more alcohol, taking sleeping tablets. So there's all sorts of things that we do to alleviate the so-called problem, but we're not actually addressing the problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And, once we start masking the problem, we're losing our focus, and things become harder as well.
Absolutely. And I know, I can't remember where I saw this statistics, but there are a phenomenal amount of people who are on antidepressants. A phenomenal amount of, that's a prescription drug, and it has ongoing effects. Now, I'm not saying you should go off the drugs because they've been prescribed for you. I'm not saying that at all. Always work in conjunction with your doctor. But by the same token, it can lead to further problems down the road if we're taking them without addressing the real beginning issue.
Yeah, it's definitely masking the problem sometimes. So now, if someone that's listening here is feeling stuck, what are some of the first steps that they can do to change things over?
In terms of just doing something for themselves.
Yes.
Okay. So, like I said,
Yes.
tip number one, definitely, please say no. Start saying no to other people and saying yes to yourself. That would be one tip. And in place, make the next tip would also be about making sure that you put into your calendar those times for yourself. Now, sometimes we can't do that. Imagine that you're in a work environment and you're having super stress with your boss or with your family if you're at home, and you just can't get away. I'd recommend go to the bathroom and just close that door and take a few minutes to breathe, just to stop and breathe, to recenter yourself, because often in those situations, they can get out of control very quickly. And so if we stop, and there are a few breathing techniques I can definitely share with you, but if we stop and focus on our breathing, especially like breathing in, hold, and then breathing out. So doing that with counting as well. So breathing in, going 1, 2, 3, 4, hold, 1, 2, breathing out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and just doing that for a few repetitions. It's remarkable how you can change your state and how it can give you better perspective, a more sense of calm. And in the meantime, the energy around the situation has probably diffused a bit as well. So it's not as volatile as it was. So if you can't get away, you can go to the bathroom. That would definitely be one tip. And another tip would, and I think sometimes we forget about the amount of stuff we've got around us. And I would say clear the clutter. So if you're trying to be more productive, whether it's at work, whether it's at home, I think having this lockdown, I dread to say the C word or the P word, but let's call it lockdown. This was a great opportunity. You may have seen it around you. A lot of people cleared out some of the stuff around their homes, and yet it is still good to clear clutter. Clear your desk, clear your space, clear just clear stuff. I mean, take it from someone who's moved countries twice. All of a sudden minimalist becomes great, because you realize that, oh, I didn't really need all that stuff after all. And it becomes like this huge weight that is lifted off our shoulders. And all of a sudden we feel lighter, and that shifts something in us as well. Having said that, I did not give up any of my crystals. My crystals are all over my desk here. So some things a girl cannot do without, and my crystals are definitely some of those things. And the other thing that you might like to do, and I know I said about, sometimes you don't have time, but it's that caring for yourself time. I have a massage lady who comes in once a month to my home, and I know a lot more people are doing that. So even if you don't have time to go out, can you get someone to come to your home? Can you take some time for yoga? Can you take some time for meditation? Can you get out? Just, even if it's on the weekend, go into the woods, go to the beach, go somewhere where everything is not so cluttered. Get back to nature.
Absolutely. Now, for someone who has struggles with setting boundaries, do you have any tips for setting boundaries at the beginning?
I have one, and I think has to be the first one. And it's always going to be the most important one. The question that you need to ask yourself is, how much longer can I keep going with the way things are? And once you know that automatically, well, gee, I can't, then it becomes easier to set a boundary. And the second component really of that is stop caring so much about what other people think, because they need to value you and you have to value you, but you have to value you first so that they can value you. Other people won't value you until you value you. Does that make sense? So when you're setting that boundary, you're not being mean. You're saying, this is my space. This is my space. And I need that space. And let me give you an example. Have you ever been at a party or a networking meeting and someone comes up to you really close to you? Hello, how you doing? Whoa, you're in my space, Same thing with boundaries. You've just got to and you can actually create a visual boundary around yourself. This hadn't even thought of giving this as a tip, but this is actually a great tip. I believe that we are all energy. So if you visualize like a bubble completely around yourself, if you don't like a bubble, you can imagine it as a coat or as a shield, whatever works for you, doesn't really matter. Even an energy bubble, like visualize a great big bubble around you. And you will notice the difference in how people come up to you or don't come up to you. There was a study, I can't remember, sorry, my mind in memory is this afternoon and who it was, but they did do a study of people who had this energy bubble around them and who would walk down a busy street. Now, being in New York, I've walked down New York streets. I know what that's like, busy New York street. But if you put a bubble around you, all of a sudden you will notice less people crashing into you.
Awesome.
Same thing. So that would be my recommendation, putting that bubble around you, and call it a bubble of protection, call it a shield of energy, give it whatever name you feel comfortable with. But that can definitely help as well in terms of that protection and that healthy boundary.
Yeah. And you know what, too? A lot of times we have these scenarios in our head about what people are going to think about us saying no or not jumping into the opportunity that they want us to do. And meanwhile, they don't even think these things.
Mm.
There's a lot of times where, oh, okay, well, then I was going to ask so and so to do this anyways. And meanwhile, you're making up all these scenarios in your head, where you're a lot of times just even bringing the communication up. I mean, it's like, well, I'm too busy. I cannot take Joey to the library today. And it's like, oh, well, you know what? I'm going by there anyways.
Yeah,
And you're
open up that
feeling all
conversation.
guilty, and it's like, oh my, I'm going to say no, and I don't feel good about this. But a lot of times you're making a lot of these things up in your head too.
Yeah, and we know that this space in between in here, if you've got thoughts running rampant, they're taking up valuable real estate without paying rent, and that's never a good thing. So yes, definitely release some of those thoughts. And it is a concept in NLP. Don't worry about what someone else thinks about you. I think it's actually said slightly differently. It's what other people think about you doesn't matter. It really doesn't, because that's their issue, not your issue. You're honoring yourself. And that's what this is all about, honoring yourself.
Absolutely. So we're going to start wrapping this up. So are there any magic words of wisdom you'd like to share with the audience today?
What magic words of wisdom? I would like to say, always, always be kind to yourself. There is a saying, I think I saw it on one of the social media channels, kindness costs nothing. Sprinkle that SHIT everywhere like confetti. So yeah, definitely. And sprinkle it on yourself so that you have enough energy to do the things that matter to you, and just be okay with that.
Wonderful. Now, I understand you also have a nice giveaway for the audience today.
I do. So being a business coach, I believe very much in abundance. I believe in working with mindset. And if you want greater success, start needing to shift your mindset more into abundance. So on my website, which is dagmarbryant.com, there is a free PDF downloadable, and it's 6 money habits of the 6-figure entrepreneur. So even if you are not yet a 6-figure entrepreneur, absolutely grab that download so that you can start shifting that mindset into getting yourself down that path.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for your time today. Amazing information. And it's very, very simple. We need to start taking care of ourselves better.
Yeah, absolutely. And during the Big P, women were probably twice as likely as men to be leaving their work because of stress and because of burnout. And that is a phenomenal concern to them and their families. So yeah, absolutely. Take care of you.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you for listening. If you're looking for more ways to reduce the stress in your life, please visit www.therelaxationlounge.info. Here I've got access to a free Facebook page where you can get support, information on the podcast where I interview different individuals who share their techniques to help you reduce your stress, plus a membership that you can join where you can come and do stress reducing practice on demand anytime you need to reduce the stress in your life and create more happiness in your world. I'll see you in the lounge.